Guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, welcome.
Loud and
This is
clear.
pardon any glitches, my friends. We are doing our crossover from doing audio only spaces, X spaces, that is. And we're pretty tired of the censorship, of the shadow banning. So, welcome to our New York Freedom Fighter Monday Night Roundtable featuring yours truly, Rosangel de Cafecito Break, Cozy of Cozy's Wellness, Mark for NY. And today's special guest is Jimmy Wagner, who is a lawyer and also president of the Donald J. Trump Republican Club in Brooklyn. I'm your host, Rosangel, one of the Perez sisters. As I said, we are boots on the ground here in New York City. We do local reports on news and politics. And we also create content for, other entities. We have our roots in MTV networks, and our focus is also community wellness. At this time, I'd like to welcome all of you to the show, and please ask you to subscribe, tell everyone, tell a friend to join us. And sharing is caring, so please comment. We'd love to see your comments as the show goes along. And let me pass on the mic to Mark and then Cozy for their introductions.
Hello, fellow freedom loving Americans. Mark Friend Y here. For those of you that don't know, I ran for State Assembly, City Council, and U.S. Senate, but the fight continues on. I try to do whatever I can on social media, spread the word, keep people motivated. People say, why do you still get involved in politics? And I always say, if you don't do politics, politics will still do you. You got people that feel like you leave New York and homesteading is the answer and all this stuff. Like, if we turn communist, there is no safe place to go to. If New York falls, the rest of the country is going to go fall with it. So I'm trying to keep people motivated, especially now with the biggest threat of a legitimate open communist running for New York City mayor. That is a big threat to New York City. So we're going to talk about that and a lot more. One of the guys who has been with us with the fight from day one, back I remember in Union Square talking about the conspiracy theory of vaccine passports, where you're going to need it to go into restaurants. All those conspiracies that came true, as many conspiracy theories are. The one and only Cozy Wellness, great song by the way, the top of the program. Good to be back.
Thank you, Mark. What's going on, everybody? I'm glad you guys are joining us in this new setup, and thank you, Jimmy, for coming in. And we can't wait to hear what you got to say, brother. Well, my name is Cozy. I'm a former healthcare worker that was fired for refusing the COVID shot, and I've been a medical freedom, uh, I guess, fighter. You would say I've been fighting for medical freedom for almost 2 decades now. So even before this whole thing happened. And ever since I lost my job, I've been doing whatever I can to survive and also to spread the message. So I've been creating. I just started rapping during the pandemic. I started giving out speeches. I've been doing whatever I can, politically as well in the background, social media, whatever I can to push the message. But enough about me. Let's get this started. Jimmy, we want to hear from you. What got you into this fight? One, the fight for, I guess, right now you're, all right, let's start with this. What inspired you to create the Donald J. Trump Republican Club?
Wow, that's a that's a long question with a long answer, and it has a long story behind it.
We want to hear
So,
it.
so let's talk about the story behind it. So, my name's Jim Wagner. I'm an attorney right here in Brooklyn. I worked for Hillary Clinton. My father was an elected union official. I was a Democrat my entire life. COVID happens. My wife's a teacher. She has a lot of friends that are teachers. A lot of them did not want to take the shot. They had been working, they had been doing everything they should have been doing. Fast forward a little bit, the teachers, I ended up representing 8 of them. I didn't charge them any money. I was so sure and so positive that New York State and New York City were going to respect these women's bodies and these women's choices, and that they were going to honor tenure law. I was like, listen, I'm going to win this for you. I'm going to get you your jobs back, and I'm going to get you your back pay. Fast forward, we go to the highest court in the state of New York, the New York State Court of Appeals. And if you want to talk about the largest collection in New York State of political hacks, let's just talk about the judges on the bench of the New York State Court of Appeals, right? They literally sat, yeah. So they're all appointed by the executive branch. They're all appointed by, the governor. So that should be a little separation of powers issue right there, but it's not. The law says you cannot terminate and discipline or remove a tenured teacher without a hearing. None of these women were given that hearing, and they all lost their job. They all lost their tenure. We get to the Court of Appeals. I'm thinking I have a slam dunk case. The judges say to the city's attorneys, if in fact the city wanted to impose a PhD requirement for all their teachers, and they had 2 weeks to get the PhD, could the city impose that and they would not have to give these teachers any due process? The city attorney turns around and says, absolutely, Your Honor, we could do that. But the city would never do that. We would never do that to the people. Sure enough, at that point, I'm like, okay, the logic flows. It makes sense. The women, my clients, were entitled to a hearing. We get a decision about 3 weeks later, tremendous, a 1.5 page decision that essentially says, hey, the government's allowed to impose a post-hire condition of employment that eviscerates all teacher due process. And that flows downstream for every city worker, every government employee, that the government can now do this. And the union sat silent. The UFT did nothing to assist us. So I break the news to the clients, because now it was just the 8 named plaintiffs. I have like 30 other people that I was helping, teachers, cops, firemen, sanitation, and it all flows downstream. So at that point, we have a Zoom, and I say, listen, this is not really the end of the road. Most people have this misunderstanding in our democratic system that judges are the final be all, end of the road. It's not. Routinely, what happens is judges make bad decisions, even the Court of Appeals, and then the legislature can overturn those decisions by saying, hey, judges, you read the law wrong. That's not what we intended. This is how we correct it. So I sat down with the clients. I said, everybody, we're not going to roll over. We can keep fighting. They agreed. We reached out to Democratic people in the city of New York and in Brooklyn, and we were told, take a hike. You had to get vaccinated. You had to protect people, all the nonsense reasons they gave you. They Democrats did not want to hear from us. We then approached the chairman of the Kings County Republican Party. His name is Richard Barsimian. We sat down with him. We sat down with him and Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis. We explained what we wanted to do. They welcomed us with open arms. And on the spot, there was about 20 something of us in the room. I want to say like 14 people switched from Democrat to Republican. And then there was like another 5 that went from independent to Republican. And with that, the Donald J. then with that, so I'm really abbreviating the story, but with that, the Donald J. Trump Kings County Republican Club was formed in Brooklyn. We've been having meetings, monthly meetings ever since. We've had all range of politicians. We've had no Democratic politicians have come in. I've invited Jumani Williams. I happen to know his wife, who's an attorney, and we've had lunch before. So I asked her if, he'd be willing to come speak to the club. So it's really this, field of openness. Every meeting, one of the things we put in our charter is every meeting is live, broadcast live. There's no backroom deals, no cigar filled rooms of people making all this going on. What we do is the meetings are streamed live, votes are done live, speeches are done live, and it's like as open as potentially and possibly as I can make a meeting. That's what we have. We've had Dr. Naomi Wolf speak. We've had Senator Steve Chan speak. We've had Sam Antar has come speak and spoke at the meeting, and that was before he even made all the connections with the Zohan Mandami money issues. And our next meeting is this Thursday, and we're going to have Senator Rob Ort, the minority leader, the Republican leader from Albany's coming down to speak. And we're going to have Melissa Vitelli speak. She's a huge Trump influencer here in Brooklyn. And we're also unleashing in this 6 month period. I have developed an app just for the club, for everyone in Brooklyn, where we help people find voters that are traditionally wouldn't be a Republican and wouldn't, not that they would be a Republican, that they're not registered. And we developed this total program where we can figure out every house and every apartment in Brooklyn where there's no registered voter. And we can go out, register the unregistered voters, and we can reach out to the Republicans. We know the Democrats, we have them on a list that of potential people that will align with us. And that's where we're at right now. And we've only been here since January 2025.
I have to say, Jimmy, congratulations. You have definitely made an impact. I was really impressed. I had no idea what we were going to see or what kind of vibe it was going to be when we walked into that meeting. But it really was like, I mean, I think that I remember, I'm paraphrasing Naomi Wolf when she's the guest speaker, I believe, that night. And yet she was there almost in awe of the people that were in that room. Like, she's like, I feel like I'm a fan of you guys. And that is exactly how I felt. Like, she totally, said it perfectly. I felt the same way when I walked into the room and I saw, like, my God, there are lions here, who've been fighting the fight in all different kind of ways, but really specifically in COVID. And then my other thing, my takeaway is how diverse, like true diversity in that crowd. I mean, even in speeches, because Jason Morello has a very specific way of communicating, and I love the way he woke us up that night. I'm excited about the candidates that I'm hearing, like Elijah Diaz, like Ramses. Tell us what is exciting you about this momentum. You have obviously built great momentum with the DJT club. How are you seeing the candidates?
No, the moment. First things first. Athena Clark. She has become, like, over the last 5 years, a really good friend, and it's amazing when you say building the candidates, because the biggest conversation we have with everybody is when you listen to people in New York City blaming the current president for any problem in New York City, and it's like, please, I was like, there hasn't been a Republican for a decade. Like, every single issue wrong in the city and state of New York, you can hate Donald Trump as much as you want, right? Look, I get it. There's some things he says are very can get people riled up, but realistically, every issue in our state, in our city, and in the borough of Brooklyn is all tied directly to the feet of the Democratic machine. The like, they don't they don't want to be your elected politician. They want to be your ruler. They want to go back to 1776. They want you bowing down like they're kings and queens. They don't want to be people. They want to be royalty. And it is this uniparty control in New York State is is just terrible. And, like, when you come back down to diversity, like, when you come to the DJT club, that it's pure Brooklyn. Everyone there, it's not. There's certain things that everyone from Brooklyn, you all cut from the same cloth. You all have, and it and that's what that stream is. When you said great warriors, I have a picture. I'm gonna tell you, it's probably one of my proudest pictures. I have me on in the middle, John McCary and Tremel Thompson, right? And it's just that's the type of people that are coming to the meetings, are people that we can all be friends. We can all agree on 85% of things, and we can have that 15% that we disagree on. Where it, but that's not how New York City politics is going right now. It's like, if you don't toe the line, you're the enemy, and that's wild, and it's crazy. And like I said, my father he's been gone a while, but he was an elected union official. I worked for the Democratic Party. I worked for Hillary Clinton when she was senator of New York. This is It wasn't an easy transition, but after they did this to these teachers and my clients, and nobody wanted to help us, they made it much easier, and they made it easy for myself, Athena, Brian, Sandra. I mean, the list goes on. They did not care. They didn't want to hear us, and it's now they're gonna hear us.
So I've been to pretty much the majority of the Republican clubs. You obviously have the biggest one, the New York Young Republican Club. You have the Brooklyn Young Republican Club, Verrazano Republican Club, Queens, you name it. I've been there. I've spoken in a lot of them. The live video streaming is something very unique. I've never heard of that before with any of these clubs doing that. Obviously, people have recorded my speeches and other people's speeches, but you live stream the whole thing. What made you decide to do that? And also, do you think there's any disadvantages to that with the opposing party knowing some of the strategies that you guys are doing?
I'm going to tell you the number one thing about the live stream of the meetings. It's 100% intentional, and keep everything in the light. There's nothing that's going on at these meetings. The debates that should be under the cover of darkness should be. New York City has a long history from Tammany Hall forward to all these backroom deals. I do a lot of FOIL requests. I have FOIL emails between the mayor's office and the UFT attorneys, right? And they're talking about how the deal's happening and Michael isn't happy. So I'm assuming, and it's my speculation, that the Michael they're referring to is Michael Mulgrew. And this is all happening. So there was like the union lawyers working with the mayor's office to impose these conditions, this whole entire vaccine mandate. And Michael wasn't happy. Is that what we're caring about? Like, Michael wasn't happy. I don't I want everything to be in the open, and then it can be discussed. Because if Michael's not happy and the rest of the world doesn't know what Michael's not happy about, this is the result we get. We get good, hardworking people who lose their jobs, good, hardworking people who are denied due process, good, hardworking people of every religion that are just crushed by the government, by the one party machine. Now, strategy wise, you know, I have not considered that. I'm not worried about it. I'm they don't have a strategy. They don't even run candidates. The Democratic Party, their entire fight is done at the primary level. I'm gonna work volunteering for Athena Clark. I haven't seen anything for the Democratic candidate whatsoever out here in District 46. I don't know how Elijah or Lewis are doing. If they've seen anything from their candidates, we were out there last week with a bullhorn in front of the office demanding a debate. Could you imagine $210,000 of taxpayer money for a campaign finance, and they don't even have to debate their opponents, right? Athena's running on a shoestring budget. The other candidates already gotten $210,000. Where is that money going? That's our taxpayer dollars, and they don't have to debate. They only force the mayors to debate. Which it might be all the citywide positions, but I do feel like that if every single candidate is taking that campaign finance money, every single one of them should be required to debate. And now it hopefully can be something that we can all raise our voices and demand here in the city. Hope I know there was a
Yeah,
couple of questions in there, Mark. Hope I answered them.
yeah, you definitely did, and I'm 100% in agreement with you. The reason why there's no debates is because the Democratic doesn't have anything to gain by debating, because they know that the majority of the people, as you mentioned before, it's been over a decade since we have had a Republican mayor, but the majority of these neighborhoods have never had a Republican. When I won in 2020, before it was stolen from me 3 weeks later, I was supposed to be the first Republican elected official in Coney Island in almost 100 years. It ended up being Brooke Krasny, who was one of my opponents as a Democrat in the city council election in 2021, and held the seat as a Democrat, and now has it as a Republican. So debatable what you know. How, I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about him. He's a good guy. He's pro police and everything. So he has the seat now, but it's for the most part Republicans do not have a say in the city council. We're a super minority. So when people, I know John McCarthy talks about it all the time. This guy doesn't get anything done. It's like you can't get anything done when you're in the minority. It comes to a vote, and you're the minority, and your vote means almost nothing. But getting back to the matching funds, yeah, 210,000. A lot of times they're paying their friends to be their consultant and things of that nature, and that's allowed. And they know it's a layup in a lot of these districts. They're getting these matching funds from taxpayer dollars. They're not debating, and it's a landslide victory for them because unfortunately a lot of the people in their district are brainwashed and they're going to vote Democrat down the line. So somebody that comes in that's a long shot doesn't can't raise money because nobody believes in them. I went through that even though I almost pulled off victories 2 years in a row with a shoestring budget, and it definitely needs to be changed, not just on the city election because of taxpayer dollars, but a state assembly seat, a state senate seat. Those are all very important seats, and the elected officials that win get paid a six-figure salary from our taxpayer dollars. So just on that alone, the people should be aware of what is going on. But the reason why it's not going to happen is because if a Republican debates a Democrat on stage, and I was lucky enough to have one in 2020, and that's archived. The Republican is going to destroy that Democrat because we have facts and logic on their side, and they have BS. They're racist and they're this and they're that. That's all they have. And as once, if somebody sees an intellectual Republican debate the issues and why we're right, it's going to start red pilling all these people watching the debates, and they don't want that. So they'd rather just leave it be. And unfortunately, it's going to be hard to change that.
No, 100%. I think realistically, we have it's an information war, right? Like I said, I was guilty as many other people, and I was in that I you fall into this comfort zone where you're like everything's gonna work out, justice will come be served, right? And then when you get to the end of the game, the ninth inning, it wasn't served. It was rigged. Whether it's rigged in an election, rigged in the judiciary, rigged at every level. eh, They know if you take a look in the back, and I'm only talking about District 46 with Athena only because I'm so involved, volunteering, helping her, and everything. Uber Pack, right? The Uber Pack has committed. It was, I think, last I checked, maybe it was 430 some odd $1,000 in mailings. Athena can. We've barely raised $5,000, and meanwhile, her opponent, they have Uber Pack supporting her to the sum of $430,000. They want a city that nobody's driving anymore, nobody's walking, nobody's doing anything. Everyone is just relying on delivery systems, Uber. There's nowhere to park your cars anymore. Out here in southern Brooklyn, it's still a two-fare zone. Like you have to take the bus to the train. People still enjoy jumping in their car, heading out to Long Island, jumping in their car, heading out to Atlantic City, right? And that's sort of probably why they're bringing these casinos in beyond another multiple of different reasons. But realistically, the Democratic supermajority in New York City, and it's kind of funny watching how the Democratic Socialists have done like this hostile takeover of the Democratic Party. It's really like super interesting how they've manipulated the system and the ranked choice voting, and they have their members actually registered as Democrats instead of working family party members and taking over the system. It's really interesting.
Yeah, 15-minute cities is the goal, I guess, and that's how you do it. Where you touched on briefly that
I have a
free
question.
free travel is a threat to their power. We have in the comments by
Hmm.
Ragged Channy. Go ahead, Cafecito.
No, yeah, that's true. I did have a meltdown one time that I can tell you about, Jimmy. I sorry, I went to the wrong meeting one time. I thought I was going the meeting for something instead of, I mean, against something instead of for. And then I had a little meltdown when I realized that I went to the wrong meeting and they were all like, advocating for more bike lanes and to close more streets. And they were saying, don't you just want, people to be able to walk more? Don't you want a healthier New York? Don't you want people just riding their bicycles? Don't you want to just be walking around the streets with your puppies and your babies? And I'm looking at him, I was like, and what about the people with the cars? And they got mad at me when I called them privilege, because I was like, this is what sounds to me like privilege, because the people who are working class, do you think all of them are going to be on a bicycle moving around the city? It's almost like you're injecting your utopia into this system. I mean, for some people it works, but for some people it doesn't. And quite frankly, the bike lanes and of how they have been implemented in the city has created lots of collision potentials. I remember, and I said this in a previous space, that an ER doctor and nurse confirmed to me that most of the bad accidents that were coming in were not from car accidents; they were from bicycles that were getting hit. People were getting hit from bicycles or like e-bikes and stuff like that, and that they were some of the worst. They were worse accidents than when people get hit by a car, for example, and to pale by comparison. But here's my question, Jimmy. Why aren't politicians and is there something that could be instituted? If you have a budget that you are going to be in charge of, why aren't they getting budget 101? In my industry, I before I can think about, oh, we want to produce a budget and put it on TV, we need to understand that every single aspect of what you see on TV from the beginning to the end, opening credits, has a value of sorts. And if you don't have the money for it, then you trade and you start to see that every single thing is valuable. It's a resource. How come politicians are not getting that 101 training, and shouldn't it be implemented somehow?
That's an excellent question. I'll tell you why. Because we'll go again localized New York City Council. We're being governed by a bunch of millionaires who never spent a day working in their life. Your mayor, Zandami, the mayor candidate, he's never worked a day in his life. Lincoln Wrestler never worked a day in his life. There's another one, Gallagher, right? Chidi Osei. These are millionaires. Let's be very clear. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, in Garrison Beach. You can go down to Garrison Beach. It's one of the neighborhoods still in Brooklyn where a kid will shoot someone for a Mountain Dew. Like, these are like working class people. When we talk about the millionaires, they don't have any idea of what it's like to run a business, what it's like to earn money, and what it is like to budget. So when I listen to this candidate talk about he is going to raise minimum wage to $30 an hour. So I run a small business. I have 4 employees. If in fact, look, all my staff is great, but they all have an economic value that they bring to the table. If in fact they gets raised to $30 an hour, I'm probably going to have to cut at least one, if not two, full-time employees that are going to be out of work. How is that economically viable for anybody? I it just makes no sense. And people who talk about government controlling these factors are people who have never run a small business. You can't be for small business and directing small business how to make a profit. It's that simple.
Yeah, man, that really pisses me off because it's either they're really stupid, which I don't believe, or they're doing it intentionally, right? Because think about it, when they passed I think it's called the Fairs Act, right, about the brokers' fees, right? They're like, oh, don't worry, we're taking care of the working class, the poor. You're not going to have to pay a broker's fee, and it's illegal. If anybody does it, just let us know, and they're in trouble. But they're not telling them that the homeowner is going to have to pay it. So what's the homeowner going to do? He's going to increase his prices. So then what happens? Now it's impossible to find rent. I have friends looking for an apartment right now, multiple friends. They cannot find anything reasonable. And this is the elite class Like you said, a lot of it is just because they grew up in wealth and they don't know how to budget. They just, and also there's the socialist mentality, that communist mentality. It's like, don't worry, we'll get it from the citizens. But they don't say that. Government will pay. Government will pay. It doesn't work. Eventually, you run out of people's money. Where are you going to get this money from? Right? So on every level, like you said, perfect example, minimum wage, what's going to happen? Yeah, that sounds cute. That sounds beautiful, right? We all would love everybody to make more money, right? We're not evil people. We want everybody to make a livable wage. Reality is businesses are going to shut down. They're going to raise their prices, or they're just going to move. It's basic economics that these socialists do not understand.
So, Cozy, on that point, one of this is legislation. We're definitely going to move out of the club, and I'm going to try to get it. The word free needs to stop coming out of politicians' mouth at every level. There is nothing free from the government. The government produces nothing. It's never produced anything. And the idea that we have them saying we're going to give free bus rides, we're going to give free childcare, no, you're not giving anything for free. Jim Wagner's working 80 hours a week. Cozy's working 80 hours. Like,
Yeah, it's theft. They're
right.
basically saying we're gonna rob you, the people. We're robbing you, and you're paying for this shit. That's what they're saying. We're gonna rob you, and this is how we're paying for grandma's wheelchair. This is how we're gonna pay for your free bus. This is how we're gonna sooner. Like, who knows what they're gonna say next? Everybody gets, free pot, free weed. Let's make everybody happy.
It's the oldest tale in the book, like a chicken in every pot. It's like a literal repeat of what happened in Germany after the Great Depression, during the Great Depression. It's like, oh, we're gonna get like you said, I'm surprised they haven't come up and said free pot, right? I'm really like, that's gonna be next down the line. It's wild.
Yeah, and I've said this a million times, destruction by design, I call it. Cozy already touched on it, but we already saw what happened when they raised the minimum wage to $15. We saw McDonald's and all these fast food companies get rid of their cashiers, replace them with machines. We saw layoffs happening. It's not, and we saw the prices of everything going up. The price of McDonald's isn't the same. You shouldn't eat McDonald's by any. I haven't eaten McDonald's in years, by the way. I am fat, but there's certain things I will not eat, and McDonald's is one of them. But yeah, I'm just it doesn't work. They did it in Seattle first. New York decided to do it anyway, even though it didn't work in Seattle or anywhere else, and it's not working now. And Cozy touched on the broker fees. I was a real estate agent for Rapid Realty. They were famous for their no broker fees. They were the ones that put it out there, and the price of the rent goes up, and then people go based on the market value. So if it was 2,000 and now they're doing 2,200, then somebody else who's renting the apartment down the street, they're looking, oh, that guy's getting 2,200. Now I can rent mine for 2,200. And then, the following year it's 2,200, but now they got to pay the broker fee. So now it's like, oh, well, we can't do 2,200 anymore because we got to implement the broker fee in this. So now it's 2,400 when you want to rent it out again. So that's why it goes up pretty much every year. And those upfront fees, it used to be first month and broker fee. Now it's first month, last month, since there's no broker fee because they want that money up front because they got to pay the broker a fee. And, so some places require first and last month so that, that they're not, they have the money up front to pay the broker. So the politicians think that you think a broker is going to work for free, that they're going to post these listings on all these websites and answer all these phone calls and pre-qualify people and drive over to the place to show you the apartment and for nothing, like where people want to volunteer. No, the reason why you found out about the listing is because somebody put in the work and the money to advertise it everywhere. So people just don't understand the way things work, and they just feel like they have these idiotic solutions that don't actually solve the problem. The minimum wage or anything that these Democrats do, it's just ridiculous. They just constantly make things worse. But John McCarty is joining us. Welcome, John.
What's up, guys? Pleasure to be here. I like the new format. Honored to be here. Listening to you guys in the background, I agree with everything you guys are saying. It's a disaster. That's why Jimmy's club, Donald J. Trump, Kings County Republican Club. It really is. it's so important, man. It's a grassroots organization, and the same way that we all have met and came together through grassroots efforts, this is actually taking those voices and those people and bringing them together, and now getting them into the seat of government, which is the next step that we need to do to not only get the city back, but to right the ills of this country as well.
100%.
John, for those who are seeing your face for the first time because they've heard you a lot of times on our X Spaces, please introduce yourself and your podcast. And everyone, we're about to transition into the bottom half of our show, and we're going to be talking about the New York City chaos, crime wave, as you hear maybe by my microphone, and so much more.
Classic New York background, sirens.
Sirens, baby. That's all. Sirens and trains. That's the New York background, right? Sirens and trains. Sleep well with that sound, you know. But yeah. So anyway, I'm John Macari. I'm a retired NYPD lieutenant. I was forced into an early retirement over the COVID-19 mandate, and I founded the Finest Unfiltered, which is basically a free speech platform where it's hosted by retired cops who were terminated from the job, and we give our opinion about policing, crime, and politics centered around New York City, but we go nationally if it involves law enforcement or any legislation involved in law enforcement. You could find us, our largest platforms, on YouTube at The Finest Unfiltered. So again, pleasure to be here, and honored to be here. So thank you.
Also, thank you. So now that we are here, the five of us, New York City crime. Okay, so hot topic number one, what are your reactions to our favorite governor endorsing Zoran Mamdani? Who would like to respond? Jimmy.
So, look, Kathy Hochul is not a Democrat or a Republican. She's a monster. She's a politician. She cares nothing about anybody but Kathy Hochul. And she's hedging her bet for 2026. She wants that Democratic Socialist endorsement. She again is hedging the bet that she wins the primary. She's going to be the governor again. That's what she's betting on. And she's just look, she's self-preservation 100%. Let's all not forget she ran on Cuomo's ticket, right? She she gets Cuomo answer to the ticket, and then she teams up with Letitia James to get Cuomo to resign. It's These are monsters. These are bad people, and it doesn't surprise me at all. I'm surprised that Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer have held out so long. Expect their endorsements to come any week now.
Yeah, the meaningless endorsements, like one evil tyrant endorsing another one. So it meant absolutely nothing. Uh, I don't see how. Yeah, it's exactly what you said. She's trying to be in the favor of the brainwashed Democrats in New York City that she voted for their fairy tale hero that's going to do all these stupid policies, these communist fairy tale policies that all these people who are educated that don't understand basic economics. So it's one idiot endorsing one piece of trash endorsing another.
So I just want to say, what do you guys think is going to happen now? Because we pretty much know that Eric Adams is going to drop out, right? Because he basically made a statement saying that he's going to look at the polls, and if he's, depending on how he's doing. So basically, I think he's out, right? So it's going to be now, this is going to get interesting, right? We have Cuomo, we have Mamdani, which is leading the way, and we have now Sliwa. So it's a three-way race. How do you think that's going to play out, or what are the chances of Sliwa actually winning this? I think he has a chance, but I want to hear what you guys have to say, both Jimmy and John.
Yeah. So one, just I'm not shocked by Hochul endorsing Mondani at all. I mean, he's a Democratic primary winner. She was being threatened with a primary, meaning they were going to come for her seat. So, like Jimmy said, I totally agree. It's self-preservation. I'm not shocked at all by that. And again, the people that are reacting to it, the conservatives and the Republicans, that's who I'm shocked by, because like you feel like you feel like what the governor should have endorsed Andrew Cuomo or Eric Adams, and they're so much better than Zohran Mamdani. If you really want change in the city, you would have been pushing Kathy Hochul to endorse Carter Sliwa, in my opinion. So that's who really has shocked me, is the Republicans and the conservatives not really getting behind Curtis Sliwa like they should. They're so concerned with what Kathy Hochul, who is a complete tyrant, has done. And just to answer your question, Cozy, do I think Eric Adams dropping out affects the race? I think it definitely affects the race, but again, I truly believe the only candidate that could beat Zohran Mamdani is Curtis Sliwa, and that is because of the polling data and the numbers, and because Curtis Sliwa has a strong base. If he's able to solidify his base, bring back in those weak conservatives, weak Republicans who are flouting and going over to these same tyrants in 2020 that we were all united against. If we present that strong united front around Curtis Sliwa, bring in moderate Democrats, which Curtis has a lot with him already, he will be able to beat Zohran Mamdani. The same polls right now that are telling everyone that only Andrew Cuomo could beat Zohran Mamdani, those same polls were telling you a few months ago that Andrew Cuomo was going to crush Zohran Mamdani in the Democratic primary, and we all knew they weren't, right. We were saying it on the spaces, right. Zohran Mamdani is going to win. He's going to be the Democratic primary winner. But if you listen to those polls, then you were completely shocked when Zohran Mamdani won. We're all sitting here like, damn, we should have made that bet. I didn't know about all those places we could bet on it. So
Like those polls are all either rigged or yeah, they're. You just got to look at the funding. Who's writing them up, and they're wrong. But man, interesting times. But yeah, then everybody's got to get behind Sliwa. I don't understand this. I'm going to say it again. You Republicans, stop. What are you thinking? Like Cuomo screwed us in the past. He's not going to change. You're going to get the same person, and probably even worse if you get him in again. So he has no chance. By the way, the Democrats are going to vote. Majority of them are going to vote for Mamdani right now. Cuomo has no freaking chance. Get with Sliwa and stop being delusional. I don't know, or maybe you're getting paid. I don't know. You people out there, trying to be with Cuomo. I don't know if they're paying you. I have no idea. I don't know what's
Well,
going
I,
on here.
I'd like to read something that our friend Sal Greco posted on X, if I may. And he said, if you could imagine him saying it, let's get this straight. Cuomo, who was trounced by Mamdani in the Democratic primary, also in ranked choice voting, all the way down to the one-on-one without Curtis or Adams, and it has the best chance to win when nothing has changed since June. Cuomo has all of a sudden come up with the grand plan that he did not have in June to lower crime, bring business and jobs back to NYC, help the homeless on the streets, bring in more affordable housing? Or is he easily the most corruptible candidate left in this race after Eric Adams, who will do the beckoning of real estate racket like, and he mentions, right, including the Trump organization. And then here's one of my favorite takeaways from Sounds. Did you know Trump's approval rating in New York City is almost as bad as Eric Adams' approval? His endorsement destroys someone in this race, right? Just like when he soft endorsed Adams. So skipping ahead, let's get back to the presidential election 2024 when Trump got 27% of the vote in the Bronx, 28 in Brooklyn, and 17 in New York City, 37 in Queens, 64 in Staten Island. Is Curtis going to perform better than that in the mayoral race as a non-MAGA candidate? The answer is yes. Is Curtis' platform and policies better than Mamdani, Cuomo, and Adams? The answer is hands down yes. It would be nice to stop anointing Adams or Cuomo, who are two, I think he meant to say retards or retreads, I don't know, who are being propped by a billionaire real estate hacks because they would be their puppet and help out and donate to Curtis Lewa. This means GOP, facts are facts. Stick with Curtis. What are your takeaways, Jimmy?
so I agree with a lot of what Sal said in the message. I'm going to tell you, I'm not convinced Adams is vacating the race. Doesn't make sense for him to. There's no reason for him to leave the race for one thing only. He's getting paid to run for mayor, right? He's actually on the job right now. He has his whole team out there, all of our taxpayer dollars. I'm not convinced he's going to leave. The same polls that told us Cuomo can't lose are the same polls that are telling us that Zamdami can't lose. So the polling is just, I think a lot of it has to do with the science of polling. It's hyper technical. And when we get to 2025, you can't call people on landlines and use them as your sample size. You can't just limit your sample size to X or limit your sample size to Facebook. And I can make up polls that'll show that, you know, Sliwa has a 100% chance of winning. When you go to those betting sites, Cuomo's team keeps posting the betting sites as if they're polls. The betting sites are not polls. The betting sites are people who are hedging bets. And if I was a betting person and I wanted easy money, I'd be betting Zohan too, and I'd be betting Cuomo second, right? But if you're looking for a noble long shot, I would definitely be looking at Sliwa, because even if his chances out of 100% are 30% just based on if every Republican gets behind him. I think part of the problem is, frankly, I don't think conservatives want us. The conservative party in New York City, I don't think they want to see Sliwa win. And that's just my personal opinion and my take. They they didn't even put Sliwa on their ticket for whatever reason. To me, it's like when egos get in that room, like when we have this important moment, if people could just put that aside, if we could get all united behind Sliwa and then just pull in 5-10% of the moderate Democrats, you could really see a Sliwa becoming mayor. And I think it's time we get a Paul Revere out there. We get the spirit of Paul Revere, the spirit of Thomas Paine. A lot of what Cozy's doing, DVS is doing, a lot of what we're all doing is getting that ethos out there, letting people realize, as Mark said earlier, if New York City goes down this route, you're never voting your way out of it. It's over. It'll have to be physical confrontation to vacate and change leadership. Because once you put these type of people in power, you do not vote your way out. That's just history, and that's where we're going to be.
Yeah, I think in this case, it's not egos. I think it's corruption. I think there's people who are corrupt that do not want to see a real, true candidate take over. Curtis Lewa has paid his dues in the city. We know that he's the only one on that stage that cares since the 70s, putting his life out there, and loving the city. He deserves that seat. And who's ever doing this, like, I think it's just pure corruption. I don't think it's egos, but hey, that's just my take.
This is the thing. They lack common sense. They voted for de Blasio, and then by the time he's gone, you see the polls say how much they hate him. Then they vote for Eric Adams, and all the Democrats hate him.
Mark, Mark, I'm sorry, Mark. Your mic is really bad. Like, people are messaging me, texting me, saying it's bad. And maybe if you could move back a little with your mic. I don't know, maybe talking too loud, or maybe it's the quality of your mic. Try speaking softer.
So how about now? At this tone, is it fine?
It's better. It's
No,
definitely better.
yeah, I get a little bit passionate about these stupid Democrats. So
Don't get too excited.
Don't get too excited. Exactly. So basically, they hate the guy from 4 years ago. They hate the guy from 8 years ago, but they still keep voting Democrat. It's like that saying of the definition of sanity: doing the same thing and expecting different results. Like, we've seen the communist uh, economics in play before with the minimum wage that was implemented during de Blasio, and we're just getting a new face with more dumb ideas. And the only way to actually fix New York is with a different person, a Republican, to clean up the mess like Giuliani did over 20 years ago. That's what we need. And as far as the polls, I agree with Jimmy that Eric Adams has no reason to drop out. And I do think if he does, that it's going to actually hurt Curtis Lewa. It's going to make it harder for him to win, because the more the Democrats split the vote, the better the chance Curtis Lewa has. And he is the incumbent. He does have people that like him because they met him before, or whatever the reason is. He's not going to get a lot, but even if he takes 10% away from Mamdani, that helps Curtis Lewa win. So we do need Eric Adams in the race. We need Cuomo to stay in the race. We need that that I've said the numbers before. I'll say it again. Curtis Lewa got 28% 4 years ago. I think he'll get about 35%. But even with that 28% number, that leaves 72%. You divide that three ways, that's 24% each. Obviously, they're not going to split it evenly, but even if he takes 10 and Cuomo takes 20 and Curtis gets 35, it's a very winnable race that these odds makers are not realizing. And I think Curtis Lewa can pull up an upset. And a lot of those Democrats, I believe in the first round of the primary, uh, Mamdani got like 38% because nobody got 50%, which is why you went to the ranked choice voting. So that means 72%, 62%, excuse me, of Democrats don't want a communist, which means some of them are going to vote for Cuomo that were brainwashed during COVID when he was on TV every day. Some of them are going to vote for Adams because they met him in person. And some of them are going to vote Republican. There's a lot of Democrats that are registered Democrats that just didn't take the time to file to change to the Republican Party, but they have been voting Republican. And I think 35% is the target of what I see Curtis Lee were getting, and 35% could technically win. Anyone want to take over here, or
Hold on. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you good.
I had an out of this world glitch. I think maybe the aliens hijacked me and put me back down. Um, so now that we're like at the bottom, like wrapping out of the show, how can we not speak about the horrific event of last week? It wasn't an event, it was a traumatizing moment in history, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Anything that you'd like to say first? I want to just say as an official statement, because from from our X base, from us, is for us who are advocates of freedom, and we've been to some of his events. It was definitely disheartening to see that someone who advocates, who's a father who advocates for families and people getting ahead and living the American dream and free speech and open debate and reason, which are the foundation of Cafecito Break. All of it. This is what we practice. Trying to walk with integrity, being mindful of that we are living with in this world with not just one mindset but all. So what does this do to the movement, as we are seeing very eye-opening responses from many people? Some people in the movement have whispered to me, the people who are out there, are content creators who are out there in activists, there's a trepidation in some of them, while others have been reignited, like, no, no one is going to take my freedom of speech away. I'm going to be more reinvigorated to express myself, but to do so not in a way, because here's my question to you, Jimmy, like, the temperatures are up. As a lawyer, as someone who lives in Brooklyn, who knows this community so well, what are your takeaways? What are your concerns? How are you seeing this moment in history, and any advice that you may have from your insight and your point of view?
No, number one is I 100% agree. Like, what happened to Mr. Kirk was absolutely terrible. It was a tragedy, and I truly feel for his wife and his children, of everybody to be to have. And I made a quick video. I really do believe he's with the Lord Jesus Christ right now, and for me, that brings me comfort. And I know it doesn't potentially help the people living behind, but that's how I'm able to move forward with it. Um, when we first started the club, we actually had there was a film crew that made a video of it. Like, and they've told me I can't release it yet. But as part of that whole filming, one of the things the reporter had asked me was, "What about, you're in Brooklyn? You're in this deep blue area, what about violence? What about this and that? And I just flat out said, I said, if we're in an age where I have to be worried about violence for speaking my mind, our country is much far gone than anyone ever anticipated. I truly pray to the Lord that what happened to Mr. Kirk was truly a sick assassination individual. I hope I'm not being naive that there are cults and groups of people that are going to come do this type of violence. Um, it's terrible, and I don't welcome it. But however, look, there's been there's been violence all throughout human history since Cain did Abel, and maybe we're looking at the spirit of Cain and Abel fighting again. Um, we'll see what happens. I don't wish that on my worst enemy, especially a young 31 years old. He was so young. It's terrible. However, I would pray that here in Brooklyn we don't have that problem, and if we do, we'll take it head on, and it'll be what it is.
I want to hear what John has to say about this as well. But before I pass it on to you, brother, just want to say that I'm more like it's total tragedy. But the thing that upset me the most was seeing the commentary uh, all over. People like the left just disregard for his life. The things that they would say was so horrific and so inhumane. People that I know, people that are close to me, smirking, laughing, thinking that it's like he deserved it, is very heartbreaking. These are people that I've known for a long time. It really hurts to say like, wow, like look how far we've gone. The fact that I think a lot of it has to do with the media, a lot of it has to do with social media, because social media has because you're behind the screen, right? A lot of these younger kids, because these are the younger kids who are really making these statements from like 20s to 35, and I think they grew up with this like shield, right? You're behind the screen, you're writing things, you can delete comments, you can block people. They've dehumanized people to where you don't respect them as like maybe a lot of it has to do with the gun violence, with the in terms of like the shooting games, dehumanizing again, right? If you're playing these games from a little kid, I think that might do something to your brain, right? Like they're so realistic now, right? When we were kids, we had like duck hunt, right? Shoot a little duck, but now they're so real. You have like kids that shouldn't be playing it, right? 6-year-old, 8-year-old kids shooting. Like I've seen little kids playing this all day. Like this is not healthy. Anyway, I'm not saying that that's the cause. What I'm saying is the dehumanization. I think a lot of it has to do with the media, how during COVID they literally told the world like we're scum, we're dirty, we're evil, we're contagious, we're dangerous, and all Trump supporters. I could go on and on, but you guys get the gist. I think there's a lot of blame to be said by the people that have the power of that microphone. Those big microphones. It's just heartbreaking, man. And I think we need to solve this problem. I think that's the root of our problem, where we are so extreme, so polarized that we can't come together and talk. It's either you're with me or you're not, right? There's no in between. And that's what we really need to heal. And I think it's our responsibility, our generation, that's our thing to solve. Because I don't think the young generation is they don't have the tools to solve that.
So, if I could just talk real quick, and talking about young generation, I had my son. I said my son plays in a band. He's with a bunch of different bands. I said, you guys should do a fundraiser for something like that, right? To get people out there. And my son turns to me and he's like, "Dad," he's like, "most of the bands in that circle, they wouldn't want to put music out like in support of Mr. Kirk." And I'm just like, whole idea of free speech, like how could you and your bands, like whether you agreed with what he said, like you don't get it. My son's like, "Dad, I get it. I'm just telling you where we're at." And my son goes to a conservative, he's in Savarian, there it's a conservative school, and they have like a whole bunch of music, but going back to that, where just people, they can't even that cognitive dissonance, they can't separate the man from you know what's been said.
If I may jump in here, I'm actually going to turn off the engine. I apologize for the sound quality, guys. I normally have a light kit and all that stuff on my laptop when I do these. I worked a 12-hour shift in the truck. I'm trying to be a part of it regardless. So I apologize again for the sound quality and lighting and all that. But as far as Charlie Kirk is concerned, I'm going to start with the good news. 10,000, more than 10,000 new Turning Point USA chapter requests have been put in with Turning Point USA since he has passed away. And one of the Turning Point USA people that I've also met on numerous occasions, Isabel Brown, has talked about how many people have reached out to her about reading the Bible, how to go about reading the Bible, and a lot of people are more inspired to read the Bible as well, like a tremendous number of people. So that's the positives that came out of it. The negatives, a lot of people don't know. Um, some of the negatives that a couple hours after he was assassinated, the Senate voted on releasing the Epstein files. They voted no, 51 to 49, and two of the Republicans were Rand Paul and Josh Hawley. And Rand Paul is somebody that I would have never expected to see his name on there. And that goes to show that assassination is kind of a warning to all the senators. Make sure you do what we say. We could get to any of you. And it makes me question Trump with that whole Democrat hoax thing. Maybe they threatened him and said, hey, maybe it's hard to get to you, but the Secret Service protection isn't as good on your granddaughter. So just go and throw a little BS thing that it was a Democrat hoax. Your idiot followers will believe you, or something along those lines. So it's pretty scary that whoever might have really been behind this, and I hate to get into the conspiracy theory aspect of it, and what actually the effect that it had. There were other things that happened within the same time frame on different votes that happened as far as involving Israel. I'm not going to get into all those things. You can see it on my social media on Instagram. I did a post about Charlie and how I was fortunate enough to meet him and how he helped me get my following, or at least 1,000 followers from sharing my stories back in 2020 and 2021 when I was running for office. So he's a great guy, and the thing that bothers me the most is similar to what Cozy said about these people and what they're saying about him. They're calling him racist, and you know what? They get misinformation. They think that this guy was a Nazi, so that's why they're saying it. It's like if we saw in the news that Hitler died and we lived in World War II, we would be happy to hear that. When we hear Osama bin Laden died, people are happy to hear it. And that's the way these people who are brainwashed by the fake news think. So these are good people who think that an evil man died. And the misinformation that's out there, though you could create a tweet that's not real and then put Charlie Kirk said this, but he never actually said it. But they think he said it. They think he's a racist. And then, it's important to post the actual videos of when he's speaking to a black person and debating them that no, our DNA is not different. That's been proven. National Geographic cover page. It's been proven. The DNA, the only difference is the melanin. Our DNA cannot be distinguished any different between a white person and a black person. We are the same. And that's the message of unity that he was trying to project during his speeches. He preached about God and he preached about love. The Stephen King put out there that Charlie Kirk wanted to stone LGBT or something along those lines. He later apologized for it, that he was wrong, Stephen King. Where do you get that information? From a clip that said, probably my best guess is when you had Gays for Palestine. I remember Charlie Kirk saying, do you know that in Palestine they stone gays and transsexuals and throw them off a roof or something like along those lines? So they probably edited that clip and say gays get stoned and or something like along those lines, where they edited the clip, and that's what people saw, that Charlie Kirk is advocating for them to get stoned, when meanwhile he was stating a fact that that's what happens in Palestine. So this is the way they edit what people say in videos, like they did with Trump for so many years, and they brainwash these people to hate, and that's unfortunately the reality. I'll pass it on to John, who hasn't gotten a chance to talk about Charlie yet.
No, yeah. I mean, listen, I think there's a real spirit of like nihilism and evil throughout this country and throughout the world. I most recently and by the way, I agreed with 99.9% of what Charlie had to say. When he got involved in the mayoral election recently and started giving his opinions, I started going at him online. And I don't regret that because that's what we do, right? Like how Jimmy was talking earlier, like, me and Trammell got, you guys have seen us had battles online, but I love Trammell. I consider him a great friend. You know what I mean? And that's true for a lot of people. And as someone myself, I get a lot of threats daily. I got a lot of threats when I had Zohran Mondani on the podcast. And I did that to show people what his true policies are, and because I believe in free speech as well. I believe that we should go out, we should seek to bring people in, not cast them out. I don't think that we should sit in our own echo chambers and cry about things. I think we should confront the politicians that we complain about online. I think they should know who we are. They should know our names. They should speak with us, and we could do that civilly and peacefully. So when I saw that video, I was horrified. And I think, like most Americans, I had a great spirit of fear rush over me. And I take solace in the fact of my religion and the fact that I know that Charlie is up there with Jesus, and I know that what Charlie did in life was fulfill his mission. I know that he knew that his life was in danger. He had threats on his life, and he still went out in public to preach God's word and to preach the history of this nation and to try to bring more people into this tent, try to bring more people into a power of understanding. So I sat there and I contemplated, was it worth it? Was it worth it for Charlie to lose his life at 31 years old, to leave his children without a father, to leave his wife without a husband? And the conclusion that I came to, and it's based in my faith, is that not only was it worth it, it was absolutely necessary, and it was his mission as a man and as a Catholic. And I think that we should all uphold that same value. So while the spirit of fear is in you, I think, we should take root in what it is that we're doing and realize none of us are getting out of here alive. Not one of us. So, and it's what we do here on earth that matters. And and I think Charlie did I think he did a great job. And and just a passage in the Bible, it says whoever seeks to preserve their life will lose it, but those that were willing to lose their life will preserve it, in substance. And what that means is basically that when you're willing to give your life to Christ and to the truth and speak the truth regardless of who's coming at you, because we were told we're not of this world, right? If we were of the world would love us as our own. But as it is, we are not of the world. We're chosen out of the world. So we will be hated the same way Christ was hated, right? Charlie was martyred. And that's just the shame of it. And I said it to somebody recently. I was arguing with someone, and I said, I don't care if Charlie was a black trans who was opposite every position I am on in politics, and every position I am in on religion and life and morality. If that person was willing to sit down with me and openly and freely debate me civilly and discuss with me, I would be just as sad today as I am for Charlie Kirk, because it was absolutely disgusting what happened. And the only way we're going to get to a better place in this country is if those of us that know that it's wrong stand up and keep speaking the truth, keep speaking God's word, and keep preaching for a better United States of America, a better New York City, and to bring more people under our tent like Charlie did.
Excellent response. Thank you, John. One more question, if I may, gentlemen, and then we'll wrap the show. You touched upon this a little bit, Mark, and that's the cancel culture. I'm a little bit on the fence with how many conservatives have gone after people who have made certain comments to really get them fired. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Given that little bit that Mark just shared with you, that nuance, that if you believe Hitler died, right? So, in one of my messages yesterday, when I had the opportunity to speak at the Walkaway stage in Queens, so thank you, Brandon Stracco, for that. I kind of asked people, can we, instead of hyper focusing so much on the young people, can we focus on who's educating these young people? Who's to blame? Mainstream media has a lot to blame here. The educational institutions, the activism, all the ways money is funneled in, right? All these Antifa like groups. There's just venom. When you have a Democratic Party, as Jimmy has indicated earlier, they do not speak to the other side that doesn't, that have questions. Anybody who's not within their little in group, that's it. So to me, how can you continue to exist as the party if you do not encourage or are a part or participate in debate? I feel like there is such putridness there. Please, Jimmy, I'll start with you. I'll say thank you again for just your time. I know you're busy, and how you would like to answer this question. And also, please let everyone, remind everyone how they could connect with you. And then we can go around if you guys can respond and do the same.
Sure. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks for having me on. So, in reference to the question, I think you've witnessed it. First things first, while we're very blessed to have President Trump in office, let's be very clear. The rhinos and dinos at the federal level, down to state level, they're all in bed with each other. And they knew for the last 30 years when they were importing all of these illegal immigrants, letting them cross the border, they were importing a subservient class of people, right? They were coming from very poor nations who wouldn't question the government, right? Who stands up to the government? People who have strength and independence, and we know what's right and wrong coming from the government. When it's much easier to bring in people from North Korea, from China, from the socialist, from Cuba, countries where people are really, really suffering. When they come in, they're gonna be like, you know what? How about if I just don't fight back, my life is 100 times improved. Not realizing the full promise of the American dream, your life can be trillion times improved, right? The the ruling class does not want that, and while you were talking about how the Democrats can act like that, the Democrats are actually importing all of these different voters. And that's just my 100% opinion. And I think the Court of Appeals, New York State, going back local again, New York State, remember, it was only March of 2025 where our highest court said only New American citizens can vote in our elections, right? Let's see how that turns out in November, because this rule just came down from the court. In New York City and New York State, we have a lot of people who are illegal immigrants voting in our elections, and we'll see how that all evolves. Back back to the meeting. I want to talk about this Thursday is our next meeting. It's the Donald J. Trump Kings County Republican Club meeting. We hold them right now on 86th Street and 13th Avenue in Brooklyn. There's bus there. You can park there. There's a parking lot. It starts at 6:30. You don't have to pay anything. The meetings are free. If you want to be a club member who gets to vote and who gets to participate in the club decisions, you then do have to be a dues paying member. Anybody else is welcome to come. And I want to announce anyone who wants to help this election, anybody in Kings County who wants to be a part of it, come to the meeting or they can email me. I'll give you the club. It's www.djtnyc.com. www.djtnyc.com. We have developed an app where I can pinpoint you in Brooklyn to 2 block radius around your house. I can tell everybody in that 2 block radius around your house who's a Democrat, who's an independent, who's a Republican. I'm not asking you to go walk 10 miles. I'm not asking you to go a whole neighborhood. We're just asking you to go a 2 block radius around your house, speak to your neighbors, tell them about your city council member, tell them about your Republican candidate Curtis Lewa. Just tell them. And if they're interested, ask them to put up a sign. I can put you in touch with all the Republicans running in Brooklyn. I can get you their signs. The Brooklyn Borough President. I can get you the signs for Curtis Lewa. Again, we're not asking for a 30 block radius. I will give you the information. You put it right on your phone. It's an app. And you'll say, okay, oh, look at this person. They're a Republican. This one's independent, but they have a blue lines flag there. It, this is the little steps that we can all do that will really increase voter output, increase getting people that we need to vote for Curtis Sliwa and people like Athena Clark and getting this done. And it's free. The DJT NYC Club is giving it to the people of Brooklyn for free. This data, there was an article in the Post. I think Mayor Adams paid like $10,000-$20,000 for it. I've paid the data. I have it, and we've cultivated it, and it's for Brooklyn. And I want everyone, even if you're a Democrat who's going to support Curtis Sliwa, I'll put you on. We'll get this out. We can do this. The people of Brooklyn, we can win this election for Curtis. We can win it for Athena Clark, Luis Cuero, Elijah Diaz, George Serentopoulos, Janine Aquafreda. I really do feel positive that we can win this long shot and we can get it done. Thank you again.
No problem, Jimmy. When is the next meeting again?
The next meeting is this Thursday, September 18th. It starts at 6:30. And just in case my wife is listening, happy anniversary, because when I agreed to do this like 3 weeks ago, the date didn't click in, and I love you, Jolene, and I'm sorry, but here we go.
And are you doing another one in October, or is it the middle of the month usually?
No, we're doing the one in October, and we're gonna have a real special guest there. We're gonna doing it. I can tell you the date right now, but I believe it's October 23rd is in my mind. It is. So it's September 18th, and then we're gonna have it October 23rd.
You're sleeping on the
Okay.
couch, Jimmy. You're sleeping on the couch tonight, Jimmy.
When I'm in town in New York, I'm fighting in Atlantic City the 4th and the 5th. But when I'm in town in New York before and after, we'll see if we can get together, and I could share some of my low budget marketing strategies with you and Athena to try to help push for a victory when I'm in town. But back to Cafecito's question, I don't like the doxing on either side. There's certain instances like where you have the Office Depot that refused to print the mural. I don't know if you guys saw that. That person should be fired. And there's certain instances, but just a tweet or something along those lines, I think it's a very slippery slope, because 4 years from now, we might not have a Republican president, and maybe, I was doxxed at my financial services job when I was running for city council, and I still had an election to win, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do for a living, and I ended up having to go back to trucking. I made $10,000 my first week back in financial services, and then got fired by somebody with pronouns in their bio, and now I got to drive a truck. So somebody who was doxxed before, that's not exactly something that I'm a fan of in either side. I think your political view should be protected. There's certain instances where if you hold a certain position within the company, you should know to just stay quiet. Like, I mean, if I was an elected official and Bill de Blasio, who I hate more than probably any other politician in history, because he is the one who is solely responsible for the state of New York right now. He is the one who destroyed New York City. If he got assassinated and I was asked the question by a reporter or something, I would say it's tragic when anyone dies, but other than that, I have no comment. Meanwhile, I obviously I'm not shedding a tear for the guy. I hate the guy. I despise him, but I'm not going to say anything stupid, because there's nothing. It's not right. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. That's the case, especially when it comes to the death of somebody, because there are, someone like Charlie Kirk, who's a father of two young kids, and a wife, a family man. You don't go and say all these evil, untrue things about him. So I'm not for the doxing. And back to something else Jimmy said, the elections are, you do have people voting who are not supposed to be voting and all that stuff, but that's a story for another time. But to answer the question, I'm not for the doxing. All these people being fired for their tweets and stuff, it's stupid, but they shouldn't be fired. I don't think, most of them at least.
Yeah, I got a little different take about it. One, I don't consider it doxing at all. I believe we all have free speech and we all need to be held accountable for our words. So I personally, a man that has digitally online stalked me for 3 years, calling me a racist on every tweet, who is Eric Adams' right hand man. He put out this whole statement basically saying that it was karma that Charlie Kirk got him killed. So I shared it. I didn't share it because I wished harm on him or I wished him out of his career, as even though for 3 years this man's made fun of me for being forced out of mine. I still, in my heart, I was like, I didn't do it from a place of like, oh, I'm gonna get back at him now, this is my chance to get him. But I feel like as Republicans and as conservatives, we're the most cowardly bunch of political figures that could ever be. And we let lies take hold in the world and we let people speak untruths and we do not confront them because we're afraid of being called racists. We're afraid of being called homophobes. We're afraid of being all these things. And so what I've been doing online is exposing our elected officials and the people who serve them. So I exposed exactly what Tony Herbert tweeted and exactly what he posted, and Eric Adams decided to fire him. To be honest with you, I don't really feel bad about it. It wasn't my desired outcome in it, but I don't feel for 1 second I doxed him. I did what I've been doing every day. I've been exposing the evil in the world that I believe. I've been exposing people who I don't believe should be in government. They're inept, incompetent, and sometimes hateful language. And so I don't believe it's doxing. I don't support any restriction on free speech. And I just want to get that straight because there are plenty of Republicans in Congress right now that have supported a bill for anti-Semitism. I'm not going to get into that. We got into that before. And that is a restriction on free speech. And that has labeled the New Testament, Christians and Catholics, as anti-Semitic. And I'm totally against anything that has to do with restriction of free speech. So I'm not happy with a lot of the rhetoric that I'm hearing coming out of the Trump administration about coming down on free speech as well. And I don't take solace in the fact that these people are fired, but I do believe public servants should be held to a higher standard. And I think that they should know what's wrong, right and wrong. And the only way that we can know as a society what's right and wrong is if we actually hold people accountable on their actions and on their words and what they do. And so I don't believe it's doxing. I don't love it. I don't think, I'm not going out there online and looking for people to do it too. But hey, if that's what you're going to put out there, that's what you're going to put out there. You're a public figure. You're going to say things like that. I don't feel bad for you either.
I just want to clarify something before Cozy jumps in and throws in his opinion on the matter. What the guy that got fired in your instance, he totally deserved it. I think I touched on that before. If I was an elected official and I was talking about De Blasio, who was just assassinated or something like that, you don't say anything mean. The person just died. You have to. I'm somebody that has pretty much no filter. If you guys, as you guys can tell, I just say whatever, whether it's politically correct or not, I could care less. But there's certain, when it comes to the death of another human being, who has people, family that love him, that's not the time to go and throw dirt. There's literal dirt being thrown on him, but the figurative dirt doesn't need to be thrown on him as well. It's just not. It's not necessary. And if you are a public figure, then you should be held accountable. So in that particular case, but there is the AI databases. There are people who created the AI of like 30,000 people to kind of go and search for all these people that are doing it, and then you have these influencers who are bragging about getting people fired, that are looking at getting the tweets in the DM, and then the person's like, "Oh, it's just I search their name, I find out where they work, I send the people, his employer, a screenshot with a pre-written letter that it only takes me 2 minutes." And she's bragging about all these people that she's getting fired. That's where I have a problem. Not somebody who is working under the mayor who says something stupid. You should be held accountable. So I just wanted to clarify that, as far as that goes. But Cozy, your take on all this?
Well, yeah, I'm for free speech. I don't want people to get fired. But then I was really thinking about it the other day. Like, what if somebody's a surgeon, right? And they think you're supposed to act professional, first of all, right? There's a code of ethics. And I think that if you're a surgeon, what if this surgeon, we find out, like, says something like that? What if he finds out you're a Republican or whatever, you're the opposite of what he believes? And what if he just decides not to operate properly on you? You know what I mean? Like, there's something to be said about how these people think. Some of these people are really sick. I mean, some of the stuff, the language that they were using, like the dehumanization, really worries me. So, like, I guess in rare, I don't know, man. Like, I think they deserve their free speech, but when you're on the job, maybe, or, and it's kind of hard to tell, right? Because their judgment could be clouded. In a position like that, I think you have to, like I know that personally, right? When I was working in healthcare, they told us that you have a code of ethics. Like when you get that license, like you're supposed to present yourself professionally at, like, outside of work, inside of work. So, like, there's this code, and I'm sure with cops, right? You guys probably have the same kind of thing, or lawyers. You have to, like, step up, and there's like an oath you take that you can't just be reckless. So it's a it's kind of hard for me to say. I don't know. I don't want to make any laws or anything like that, but it's just something to think about. But I am totally for free speech, and I don't want people really getting fired.
Just one thing. I think we got to understand there's difference between private industry and and people who work for the government, right? If I own my own business and my employees, you're on my time, and I catch you posting anything, whether I agree with it or not, I'm you're an at will
Oh,
employee. I can fire you,
absolutely.
right? So it's sort of like the Colin Kaepernick thing. I always try to explain to people the kneeling during the football games. He's doing that on company time. You just can't do that on company time. It's that simple. If I don't think anyone should be fired for what they say on their own private time. However, and I'm willing to go all the way to the end of it. But on company time, you can't. It is you're governed by the contract or whatnot.
Yeah, that goes without saying for sure. Absolutely.
My God, I never like to wrap up these conversations because I really love the flow of it. This has been an amazing time. Let's start wrapping out comments. I just like to add to what all of you have said that I'm kind of in the middle here too. As a freedom of speech platform, we do stand by freedom of speech. That doesn't mean that freedom of speech doesn't have consequences, right? And sometimes I like to tell people, like, one time a young lady was challenging me in the streets, and she was like, "You're really not a real woman. Like, you're afraid to just be yourself in every single setting. Like, you're being a little fake." And I'm like, well, let's put it this way. Like, when you walk into a church, don't you know that there's a decorum? You're not necessarily gonna go in there shouting. That everybody kind of knows when you walk into a temple, you're gonna be listening to whomever is giving a sermon of sorts. There's a way to be like, so it's not like that I'm being fake because I move. I look at it as I made an agreement by walking into that setting. Everyone else is quiet listening. If I'm gonna be loud and noisy, I'm gonna be disrespectful. I'm not necessarily being fake about it. So there's a lot of weird messaging that has been happening with the young people. And also, something that people remind me a lot is that a lot of the young people have already equated with speech is violence. Certain speech is equated with you are being violent. And I know that this is hard for maybe some of the OGs to understand. I'm still trying to process that. We are up against a generation and where we literally are in different dimensions trying to speak with each other, and then we have the mainstream media and the lovely politicians. Isn't this wonderful? Mi gente, if you are in New York City and you are feeling puzzled, if you are feeling confused, if you want to find common sense thinking folks, we've got them here. Here's just a few of them. It has been an amazing Amazing space. Thank you again, Jimmy. Happy anniversary to you and your wife. Thank you, Cozy. Thank you, Mark for NY. Thank you, John. It's always amazing to be with all of you. As we wind down, I just want to remind you guys, please take a moment to follow each and every one of our accounts. I'm going to bring up the there we go. Follow the hosts. I'm at Cafecito Break. Primarily post on X. And if you're going to find us on Instagram, it's 10.0. They have taken us down 10 times. And yes, and then Cozy at Cozy's Wellness, pretty much right on X and on YouTube, or everything, right? Substack and Instagram. And Mark is Mark4NY, number 4 for NY. On the same thing, X, Instagram. Anywhere else, Mark?
Facebook, Truth, Getter, pretty much everything is all Mark Friend Y. So I have a I don't I'm not active on YouTube I created a Mark Friend Y a long time ago. It has my old campaign videos, but Mark Friend Y mostly on Instagram.
All right. If no one has anything else to say, muchas bendiciones to each and every one of you.
I do have one other thing to say. Just you said before if you're looking for a place aside from following us. It's important to join these clubs because a lot of people in New York are like feel like, oh, there's Republicans in New York are so rare. There's a lot more of us than you think. So joining or coming to a meeting, at least the Donald J. Trump Club in Brooklyn, it's definitely worth coming and hanging out in person with like-minded people. It's definitely something that you should consider. And I thank you, Jimmy, for joining us and for putting in the effort to start the club and keep things going. Hopefully, I'll be able to attend the meeting and maybe speak at one day.
Absolutely. And thanks again, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night. This has been the New York Freedom Fighters Roundtable X Base. See you next Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, where our guest is Elijah Diaz, who is also running in this election cycle, and we'll get to learn more about him. All right, mi gente. Love you guys.
Thank you guys
Many
for doing what you
blessings.
do. Thank you. God bless you all.
All right.